It's not a drill. Konami actually printed Maxx C 2. That's right. It's not bait. It's not some real watered down version of Maxx C like the last Mulcharmy. This Mulcharmy that just got announced for Rage of the Abyss is actually the closest thing we'll probably ever get to Maxx C, and probably a candidate for best card of the year. And that's despite getting some incredible cards this year, like Promethean Princess, the Fiendsmith cards, and a bunch of the Snake Eyes stuff. So let's read it real quick. It is a effect monster just like the other Mulcharmy Preorder. And it says that you can activate one other Mulcharmy effect during the turn you activate this card. So technically, you can use 2 if you draw it. I don't know why they word it this way, but fun. And then it says if you control no cards, quick effect, you can discard this card and apply these effects for the rest of the turn, just like Preorder. Each time your opponent special summons a monster from the deck or extra deck, draw 1 card. And there it is. Yeah, so that's just nuts. Summoning from the hand like you do with Preorder is not like bad, but it's not broken. You summon from the hand in many combo decks not that many times. Only a few in history have ever really been very centric on summoning from the hand. I'd say most are revolving around the deck, the extra deck, and the graveyard. So seeing something that special summons from the deck and extra deck giving draws is kind of mental. This is good versus pretty much anything, even a bunch of mid-range decks like Sky Striker. This is fairly good against. Anyway, let's keep reading because it does have a little bit to end on. During the end phase, if the number of cards in your hand is more than the number of cards your opponent controls plus 6, you must shuffle them from your hand into the deck so the number equals the number of cards your opponent controls plus 6. So that means if they end on a singular card after all said and done, your maximum number of cards in hand will be 7. That means you'll draw to 8. So even if your opponent is able to put up only a single monster to thread on their disruptions for the turn into the shuffle cards back, you'll end on 7 drawing to 8, which is phenomenal. That is a draw 3 that is better than Pot of Greed by like a good margin. Yeah, that's just insane. On top of your opponent's just not going to be able to do their full combo. Trying to think about it, the best way to counter this card would be to try end on only 1 disruption or 1 monster that would really carry you, like a 4-Material Appaloosa or a Colossus. But in reality, with 8 cards, you're probably just screwed. I don't even know how you go about this. Where a normal Snake Eye combo could have given your opponent like 2 cards to draw. If I do a normal Snake Eye combo versus this, my opponent's going to end with 12 cards in hand. It's absolutely mental and very, very close to the power level that Maximum C is. But that being said, it does have one big distinction. The same way that Preorder stated you have to control no cards in order to activate it, this card does have the same clause, which is a huge, huge thing. Because while this card is broken, and do not get me wrong, this card is insane and is like the second coming of Maxx C, it doesn't share that very toxic trait that Maxx C had, where you can make a mediocre field after getting like hand trapped twice, but the board would have a little bit of disruption to keep you alive, as well as follow-up, and then you Maxx C your opponents. We see it in Master Duel all the time after doing like Turbulence effect or half Snake Eye combo, and they Maxx C you, and you just get absolutely obliterated. Because now what are you supposed to do, right? If you pass turn, you die. If you try combo through it, you probably can't kill them because they'll draw into hand traps and they'll have the defensive options they already had set up. So you probably just lose on the spot unless you have a way to stop Maxx C. And the problem with that as well, though, is if your opponent's able to set up, like, say, 1 counter trap, say they're playing Salamangreat, and they set up the Salamangreat Roar as a counter trap. Now if they Maxx C me, if you have Call by Rash, it just gets negated. And that's very concerning. So this card not having the clause is overall healthier for the game. And it's arguable that between the Fiendsmith cards, Snake Eye cards, and the new Fusion TCG exclusive we just got announced, that the way Yu-Gi-Oh! Is heading, we really did need more powerful hand traps. I just don't like that it's really another lingering floodgate, and Maxx C, in all reality, just only for going second. One thing with this card not being able to be used when you control cards is that the one part of Maxx C that was okay when controlling cards is when you got Maxx C'd, you can Maxx C them back. That's not going to be a thing now, right? If you go special summon from the deck, use like original Sinful Spoil, and you get Mulcharmy special from the deck, what are you supposed to do, right? If you have your own, you can't use it now unless you find a way to clear your own field. So I guess you can go like SP pass, hope to clear it off, and then Mulcharmy them. That's really like the best you could do. And even at that point, you're probably still putting them drawing to 6 or 7 cards, which is kind of rough when you're giving up your entire turn essence to do so. Very, very powerful. I think it's going to be interesting to see how it develops the format, because this card is by every means meta warping. Like, do decks like Fiendsmith and Snake Eye now become a lot less viable? Do going second decks get way more viable because now there's real value in choosing second, being able to main the Mulcharmy cards? Or do you just put this in and say, like, you go to Cyframe Gamma that if you draw this going first, it's worth the risk because this compensates enough of the time you go second. Or is this card such an overbearing threat to the metagame that now you just have to play slower decks? You can't play anything that's combo based. These are things that are left to be seen. And we'll see what OCG does first for some inspiration, although theirs will also be paired in with Maxx C. They'll essentially have 6 copies of this card to worry about. I think that something that looks like it's in a really good position is Tempai, because that deck would go second, can play all these cards. It doesn't have the brickiness of playing random one-ofs you don't want to draw, like Flamebird, Snake-Eyed Bellstar, and so on. So you just get to draw a bunch of live cards straight away and OTK them. And you just go second and they die. It's super easy. If they pass under this card, they're probably dead. And if they use Mulcharmy on you, like say they go SP pass, banish the SP, then use this Mulcharmy on you, give them like 2 draws or 3 draws for Tempai. They're just dead once you get the battle phase. There's not really hand traps to stop that. So right now it looks like Tempai just runs away with this. With that being said, that's a very primitive and basic look of how this will shape the meta. This will be a very long-standing effect until the day gets hit or new cards come out to counter it. I think it'll also mean that cards like Call By, Ash, and Crossout will be like staples in side decks, if not the main deck. I know at this point they already were coming close to staples, but there were formats in the past where you very reasonably didn't have to play these cards. And now, like, again, while this card is legal, that's probably not going to be a thing we can expect. So I'm looking forward to seeing how this card really will warp Yu-Gi-Oh! And now everyone may be screaming, oh my god, Yu-Gi-Oh's ruined, which we've been doing for 20 years. Let's be real. Because Maxx C's coming back and we hate Maxx C. Let's be patient for a second, because Yu-Gi-Oh! Is not dead. We've been saying that for a long time. While I don't like Maxx C, have been enjoying Master Duel. So that means if properly balanced, the format can still be enjoyable. And I'd like to see where this goes before rushing conclusions and screaming like a doomsayer that Yu-Gi-Oh! Is over and we should all quit and play different games. I'm not thrilled about this card existing, but I am open to seeing what Konami does to make this a thriving metagame. Because truthfully, this Snake Eye metagame blows, and I don't want to see this be a constant for the next couple of years. If this is their way of curbing it and it does so effectively, then who am I to complain? It does the job. That being said, I don't know if it'll do that and actually make Yu-Gi-Oh! Fun. Well, we'll have to see. One other thing that's interesting to note, though, that may come up is this now when Maxx C itself gets unbanned. And that's an interesting topic now. And for the first time in a while, I think there's some merit to it. Because truthfully, I've always been like blowing that argument off. Like, that's BS. Who the hell cares? And when people said the last Mulcharmy was coming out meant Maxx C coming back because they were trying to like bring it back in, give you more versions of it. That way, playing counters also is less fluky and drawing is consistent, so it would more often dictate the game instead of being more volatile. However, the old Mulcharmy Perilia is nowhere in power level comparable to Maxx C or this card. So it wasn't really a solid argument. But now you can make the argument it is. And this is also another stretch, but this is paired with the fact that yesterday they announced a new Speed Duel product with Maxx C getting reprinted in it. I think there's a legitimate chance that now, Maxx C might get phased back into the metagame. And that would even further shift the cards that cross out Ash and Call By. Their importance would be exponential, because this may be Konami's final sign to say, all right, let's slow the game down. This is how we have to do it. Who knows what that'll do? I think OCG is still pretty fast despite Maxx C. Maybe this having 6 copies of Maxx C will change that, but I don't know. Let me know what you guys think. If you think it'll have this drastic change that actually slows the game down, if the game is ruined, or if this will be the savior that surprisingly Yu-Gi-Oh! Needed. Can't believe Maxx C came back from the dead. Only took half a decade, maybe a bit longer, but it's the second coming of Maxx C. All right, see you guys next time.